Naomi was only 8 when she first heard it. She had been playing outside, her school uniform still dusty, when her mother's voice cut into her like a sharp blade. "You, Naomi," Grace snapped, pointing at her. "You are nothing but a bone in my neck." The words were heavy, filled with bitterness. Naomi stopped in her tracks, holding the small flower she had picked from the yard. She didn't know what the phrase meant exactly, but she could feel the disgust in her mother's tone. Her chest burned. "Mummy, why would you say that?" she whispered, tears threatening to fall. Her mother rolled her eyes. "Because that is what you are. Trouble. Nothing but trouble." Naomi dropped the flower on the ground, her small hands shaking. She had only wanted to show her mother something beautiful. Instead, she got rejection. That night, she lay on her small bed, curled up under her thin blanket, staring at the ceiling. The words replayed over and over in her head, "Bone in my neck, bone in my neck." She thought about her brothers, David and Joel. They were always praised. If David fetched water, Grace clapped. If Joel swept the sitting room, she smiled. But if Naomi did the same, she would hear only complaints. "Why me?" Naomi whispered into the darkness. "Why does she hate me?" But no answer came. Only the sound of crickets outside the window. From that day on, it became her mother's favorite insult. Whenever Naomi made a mistake, no matter how small, Grace would snap at her. "See this bone in my neck again." When she spilled a little water on the floor, "Bone in my neck." When she came home late from school because of extra lessons, "Bone in my neck." When she coughed at night and disturbed her mother's sleep, "Bone in my neck." Soon, even her brothers picked it up. "Hey, bone in the neck," Joel teased one afternoon, laughing as David joined in. Naomi forced a smile, but her heart sank. What hurt the most was not just the name, but how quickly it spread, like a curse everyone believed. At school, Naomi hid her pain. She smiled with her friends, answered questions in class, and worked hard. But inside, she carried a weight, one heavier than her little shoulders should bear. One day, during break time, her best friend Esther asked, "Naomi, why do you always look sad when you go home?" Naomi forced a laugh. "Nothing. I'm fine." But deep down, she wanted to scream the truth. "Because my own mother doesn't love me." That night, when her mother shouted the name again, Naomi decided something silently in her heart. "If this is who she thinks I am, then one day I will prove her wrong." Naomi learned to cry quietly. At night, when her brothers snored peacefully in the next room, she buried her face in her pillow and let the tears soak the fabric. She couldn't cry loudly, because her mother would scold her for being dramatic. One evening, after she had washed the dishes, Naomi accidentally broke a plate. Her hand slipped because the soap was too slippery. The plate crashed onto the floor. Her mother rushed in. "Naomi!" Grace shouted, her face twisted in anger. "You see exactly why I call you a bone in my neck. What use are you if you can't even wash plates properly?" Naomi bent down, picking the sharp pieces carefully with trembling hands. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered. "Sorry won't buy me another plate." Grace snapped and stormed out, muttering the insult again under her breath. Naomi sat on the floor, staring at the broken pieces, her fingers cut from the shards. She wanted to scream, "Why can't you love me the way you love them?" But the words never left her lips. She only wiped her tears and promised herself she would do better tomorrow. At school, Naomi found peace in her best friend, Esther. Esther noticed the sadness Naomi carried, even though Naomi tried to hide it. One afternoon, they sat under a mango tree eating snacks. Esther nudged her. "Naomi, tell me the truth. Why do you look like someone is always hurting you?" Naomi sighed, looking down. "It's my mum," she whispered. Esther frowned. "Your mum? But mums are supposed to love their children." "She doesn't love me," Naomi said softly. She says I am a bone in her neck. She says I bring her pain. Esther's eyes widened. She said that? To her own child. Naomi nodded, biting her lips to hold back tears. Esther took her hand. Naomi, don't believe her words. You are not a bone in anyone's neck. You are smart, kind, and you're my best friend. If she can't see it, that's her loss. For the first time in a long while, Naomi smiled. Those words felt like medicine on a wound that never healed. Naomi decided she would try harder at home. She woke up earlier than her brothers, swept the compound, fetched water, and even cooked sometimes. She thought maybe, just maybe, her mother would notice her effort and love her. One morning, after preparing breakfast, she stood proudly by the table. "Mummy, I made the pap and fried the akara," she said. Grace glanced at the food and nodded slightly. Naomi's heart lifted, thinking it was approval. But her mother added quickly, "At least you didn't mess it up this time, bone in my neck." Her smile faded. Even when she tried her best, she was still reduced to that name. But instead of breaking down, Naomi began to store those insults in her heart, like fuel waiting for fire. When Naomi's teacher announced a spelling competition, Naomi saw it as her chance. She studied day and night, memorizing words until her eyes hurt. Esther helped her revise, cheering her on. The day of the competition, Naomi stood on stage, her heart pounding. She spelled each word with confidence until she became the winner. The crowd clapped, and her teacher handed her a certificate. Naomi rushed home with excitement, holding the certificate like treasure. "Mummy, look," she said, beaming. "I won first place in spelling." Her mother barely looked up. "And so, will that certificate cook soup in this house?" she asked coldly. Naomi's smile froze. Her hands trembled as she folded the certificate back into her bag. That night, she whispered to herself, "One day, this paper will mean something. One day, she will see." Her brothers, David and Joel, found joy in mocking her. "Bone in the neck, bring us water," Joel would say, laughing with David. "Bone in the neck, sweep the floor," David added, throwing his socks at her. Naomi tried to ignore them, but the words pierced deep. She sometimes wanted to fight back, but she didn't want more trouble from her mother. One evening, after they had mocked her again, she ran to Esther's house, crying. Esther hugged her tightly. "Don't listen to them," she said firmly. "They don't know your value. But one day they will." Naomi nodded, wiping her tears. "I will show them. I will show all of them." Naomi started writing her feelings in a small diary she bought secretly from the market. Each page carried her pain, her anger, and her dreams. "Today she called me bone in the neck again. But I won't give up. I will prove I am more than her insult." The diary became her safe place. Whenever she felt invisible at home, she poured her heart into words. Naomi's teacher noticed her brilliance and encouraged her. "Naomi, you have a bright future. Don't let anyone dim your light," she said. Those words gave Naomi strength. She realized that even if her mother didn't see her worth, someone else did. By age 13, Naomi won another competition, this time a regional debate. She came home holding a golden plaque. Her heart raced as she placed it before her mother. "Look, Mama, I won again." Grace glanced at it, unimpressed. "What will this plaque buy me?" "Nothing. You are still the same bone in my neck." Naomi's throat tightened. She wanted to scream. But instead, she smiled faintly and whispered, "If being a bone means never giving up, then I will stay that way." Naomi spent more time with Esther, who reminded her of her worth. "Naomi, your mother's words don't define you. Look how far you've come. You are special." Naomi nodded, though deep inside she still longed for her mother's approval. At a family gathering, relatives praised David and Joel for small things. Naomi waited, hoping someone would notice her achievements. But her mother dismissed her again. When one aunt said, "This girl is intelligent," Grace interrupted. "Intelligent? Please, she is nothing but a bone in my neck." Naomi's cheeks burned with shame as everyone laughed. That night, Naomi cried but then wrote in her diary, "I will not be broken. One day, I will rise so high that even my mother's voice cannot reach me." It was her vow. In school, Naomi's name began spreading beyond her class. Teachers spoke of her intelligence, and other students admired her courage in debates. Naomi felt a small flame of recognition, something she never received at home. One day, after winning yet another award, Naomi stood in her small room, staring at all the certificates she had hidden under her bed. She touched them and whispered, "These are my proof. One day, I will leave this house and build a life where no one will call me a bone in the neck again." At that moment, Naomi knew her pain was no longer a curse. It was fuel for the fire that would carry her into her future. Naomi began dreaming of becoming a lawyer. She wanted to defend people who were treated unfairly, people like her. One evening, she whispered to Esther, "I want to study law. I want my voice to matter." Esther grinned. "And it will. You're not a bone, Naomi. You're a backbone." Those words became Naomi's secret strength. But at home, things didn't change. One afternoon, Naomi returned with her school report card, first position again. She handed it to her mother, her heart pounding. Grace looked at it for 2 seconds, then threw it on the table. "So, will first position feed me? Useless bone." Naomi picked up the card, tears filling her eyes. "Mama, why do you always say that? Don't you see I'm trying?" Her mother hissed. "Trying? Your brothers are my joy. You are just my headache." Naomi turned away quietly, her heart bleeding again. Under her bed, Naomi kept every certificate, every report card, and every award. They were her silent treasures. Sometimes at night, she spread them out and stared at them like stars, reminding herself that she wasn't useless. She wrote in her diary, "She doesn't see me, but one day the world will." As they grew older, Esther remained her rock. "Naomi, the world is bigger than your mother's house," she said one day. "You must believe that. Don't let her words tie you down." Naomi nodded. "I won't. One day, I'll stand tall. I'll show her." At 16, Naomi sat for a scholarship exam. She worked day and night, studying by candlelight when electricity failed. The results came, and Naomi had the highest score in her region. She won a scholarship to study law at university. When she told her mother, Grace shrugged. "So what? You will still be a bone in my neck, even in university." Naomi held her acceptance letter tightly, whispering to herself, "Not anymore." The day Naomi packed for school, her mother didn't hug her. David and Joel barely noticed. Only Esther cried and hugged her tight. "Go and shine," Esther whispered. "Don't look back. The world is waiting for you." Naomi carried her small bag, her certificates hidden inside, and walked out of the gate. For the first time, she felt free. University was a different world. People respected Naomi for her brilliance. Professors praised her, classmates admired her, and she finally felt seen. But deep inside, her mother's words still haunted her. Sometimes, when she made a mistake, she would hear that voice, "Bone in my neck." Naomi shook her head. "No, I'm not that anymore," she whispered to herself. Naomi joined the debate team. She argued with passion, confidence, and fire. Crowds cheered her name. Newspapers even wrote about the young law student with a sharp mind. For the first time, Naomi realized her voice carried power. One evening, she called her mother to share her success. "Mummy, our team won the national debate. I was the lead speaker." There was silence on the other end. Then Grace replied coldly, "And? Does that put food on my table? Naomi, stop disturbing me." Naomi's eyes stung with tears, but she forced a smile. "One day, Mama. One day you will know." Instead of breaking, Naomi let the rejection fuel her more. She studied harder, worked on her speeches, and kept climbing. Her diary entry that night read, "Her silence is my fire. Her rejection is my fuel. I will not stop." Years passed, and Naomi graduated with top honors. Her name was called on stage, and the audience stood up, clapping. She looked into the crowd, wishing her mother was there. But Grace hadn't come. Naomi held her certificate high, whispering, "This is for me, even if she never sees it." Naomi got her first job at a respected law firm. She wore her black suit proudly, stepping into courtrooms with confidence. People called her Counselor Naomi, and she felt her dream unfolding. But at night, when she removed her wig, she sometimes remembered that kitchen years ago, when her mother first called her a bone. One morning, her picture appeared in the newspaper, "Young Lawyer Wins Landmark Case." Naomi bought 2 copies. She kept one for herself, and the other she sent home. Her mother received it, but said nothing. David and Joel, who once mocked her, now came asking for help. David wanted her to assist in a land case. Joel begged for money to start a business. Naomi helped them quietly, though she remembered their laughter at her pain. When Joel said, "Naomi, you've really made it," she only smiled. Naomi visited home after years away. She walked into the same compound, her head held high. Her mother looked at her in silence. Grace muttered under her breath, "So the bone has grown strong." Naomi smiled softly and replied, "Yes, Mama. The bone you could not swallow became the strength I needed." In that moment, Naomi realized she no longer needed her mother's approval. She had found her worth within herself. One evening, Naomi sat with her mother in the sitting room. Grace was older now, her once sharp voice softer but still cold. Naomi looked at her with calm eyes. "Mama," she began, "do you know how much your words hurt me growing up?" Grace frowned. "Words? What words?" "Bone in the neck," Naomi said firmly. "You called me that so many times I almost believed I was worthless." Her mother shifted uncomfortably. "You were stubborn. You gave me stress." Naomi shook her head. "No, Mama. I was only a child who wanted love." Grace said nothing. For the first time, Naomi saw guilt flicker in her eyes. That night, Naomi lay in her old room, staring at the cracked ceiling. She remembered all the tears, all the nights she felt unloved. But then she remembered Esther's words, her own victories, and her strength. She whispered to herself, "I forgive her, not because she deserves it, but because I deserve peace." Tears rolled down her face, not of pain, but of release. Esther, still her closest friend, organized a small gathering to celebrate Naomi's success. "This is not just about your career," Esther said proudly. "This is about the girl who was called a bone but became a backbone." Everyone clapped, and Naomi smiled, her heart warm. "Thank you, Esther," she said softly. "Without you, I might have broken." Esther hugged her. "You were never broken, Naomi. You were only bent for a while. Now you stand tall." One quiet morning, as Naomi prepared to leave home again, her mother called her. "Naomi," Grace said slowly, her voice trembling. "I may not have said it before, but I see you now. You are strong. Stronger than I ever thought." Naomi paused, shocked. For years, she had dreamed of hearing such words. Now they came, faint but real. She smiled gently. "Thank you, Mama. But even when you didn't see me, I learned to see myself." Her mother's eyes grew wet, though she turned away quickly. Years later, Naomi stood before a large crowd, giving a speech as an accomplished lawyer and activist. She spoke about resilience, about pain turned into power. I was once called a bone in the neck, she said, her voice steady. But that bone became the backbone that carried me through life. No matter what anyone calls you, remember, you are more than their words. The audience erupted in applause. Naomi smiled, feeling Esther's proud gaze from the front row. As she stepped down from the stage, she felt free. Her mother's insult no longer chained her. Instead, it had forged her into steel. And in that freedom, Naomi found peace.